Garbage. Just absolute garbage. Absolute, total, and complete garbage. I apologize. I'm sorry. There's a lot of people tuning in. Appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Um, I'm actually really glad that I didn't have any audio there because uh, nothing good. So I guess let me just reset this one. As everyone knows, coming to you, Sactown Sports Kings recap live from Golden One Center after the Kings lose to the Charlotte Hornets, 111-104. They play the Orlando Magic tomorrow. The Magic, I was just checking, and Magic are going to lose tonight to Golden State. So both of those teams tomorrow, heading into this game or heading into tomorrow's game, will be coming off of losses. But those losses are not created equally. The Magic, they're an upstart team this year. They've had a really, really good season. They only go to Golden State or play Golden State twice a season. This is their only time making the trip over to the West Coast. They travel pretty much across the country. It's okay. It's okay for the Orlando Magic to lose tonight. The Kings, on the other hand, again, tomorrow, I don't know if there's a such thing as if tonight was a must-win game because of the opponent, you feel like you just had to have tonight's game. Well, now tomorrow is an absolute 100%. If there is a loss tomorrow, people are going to be ready to make moves, man. I mean, with the OG trade happening the other day, you can kind of feel trade season is in the air a bit. And, if things start to kind of go south here a little bit, and, going south would be, in this easier stretch of games that the Kings find themselves in, I think it's going 500. I think there's no way when you look at the quality of opponents that the Kings have. Granted, an East Coast trip is difficult, but I just don't think there's any way that you can realistically look at this team and not say like there's some moves that need to be made. I'm not saying it's got to be wholesale changes. I'm not saying you gotta completely overhaul the starting unit or two of the five starters or anything like that. I think at the very least you just got to kind of shake it up. Maybe you look to make a move for the Alex Caruso's, the Dorian Finney-Smith, Royce O'Neal, whoever your favorite fringe guy out there is that's available via the trade market. I think if you see the Kings start to drop some games here against some Eastern Conference opponents, I definitely think that there's going to be you think there's a lot of clamoring for moves. Now there's going to be tons. There's going to be an absolute ton of people who are upset, and I kind of don't blame them. I mean, when you have a night like when you have a night, sorry, I was just reading some of the comments. Y'all are hilarious. When you have a night like you have tonight, where it felt. Just the entire. First off, from jump, this game just had a weird energy to it. I guess from the crowd perspective, like there's not much storylines to follow when it comes to the Charlotte Hornets. Like there's not a lot of vitriol there. It's a team you play twice a year. You don't really build a lot of storylines or narratives. You kind of have the Miles Bridges thing going into tonight. But I don't really think that's enough to fuel an entire crowd to kind of get into it. So, I kind of understand why, a Sacramento crowd on a rainy night on a Tuesday after tons of holidays, I can understand why the energy might be a little strange, but it's not on the crowd to bring energy. It's on the players to excite the crowd with their play. And there was none of that. The Kings, you could tell they just sleptwalked through today. They probably felt like everybody else did. I mean, there was a 15.5-point spread on the game tonight. Probably felt like it didn't matter at any point. They could turn it on and things would just start to go their way. And that wasn't the case. That just wasn't the case. And this is just a prime example of you cannot overlook your opponent in this league. I know it's a cliche. I know everyone says, oh, yeah, everyone's got NBA talent. But on a night like tonight, you literally see everyone's got NBA talent. Even if the worst teams in the NBA have 3 or 4 guys out that you think, oh, okay, there's no way they're going to be able to give it to us on a night like tonight. Here is a prime example of any single night you can get it. Terry Rozier with 30 plus. You had Miles Bridges, who honestly just got to the rim. That was it. That was all Miles Bridges did all night tonight. He finished with 27. It's just, I mean, and the thing is, those dudes can both go off. It still shouldn't result in the Kings loss. I just think on a night like tonight, you should be able to have enough firepower to get it done. Because frankly, I mean, it's not even like, the other day when the Kings played the Wizards and the Kings put up 140 something, but the Wizards were able to put up 135. Like I can live with that, but on a night where the Hornets didn't even have it, like they weren't feeling it. There was nothing special in the first half, at least, of what the Hornets had going on. The Kings just kind of let them in the game. I mean, the fact that the Kings never took advantage, I think, is the thing that they're going to look back on tonight and just in regret. I mean, they did their part when it comes to playing defense. I can't believe I'm never going to say anything like this again. But earlier on the radio today, I was like, I don't even think the Kings need to play 48 full minutes of defense. In my opinion, I would have thought that they could have played defense like they did tonight, where the Hornets score 45 points heading into halftime, I think it was. Yeah, they score 45 points heading into halftime. To me, that says, all right, you got no one in rhythm. Doesn't seem like a night where someone's, again, a Terry Rozier can give you 40 and, just going to kill you on a crazy night like that. I think the Kings played good enough defense. They just didn't execute on the other end in the first half. De'Aaron was 3 of 11 from the field. Just in general, a really inefficient night from him. And really, Malik Monk had a terrible night. Even in the first half, just just in general, let's kind of cover the night for Malik Monk. Just strange, just really, really strange from the start. And I definitely think a lot of that is the fact that the Hornets were Malik's first team, and he's got a lot of emotions about that. He's talked really openly recently, and just really since he's gotten to Sacramento, about how he was almost out of the league when he was over in Charlotte. He didn't think he would be here today. He kind of thought he was on his way out. He had a drug issue that got him suspended for some time when he was in Charlotte, and he wasn't sure if he was going to have an NBA career. So I think now you see him here comfortable in Sacramento, about to get a huge extension this offseason. And I think he kind of saw tonight as an opportunity to show the Hornets, like, look what y'all missed out on. Look at the talent that you had in your building and just kind of wasted away. And I think sometimes that can lead to some pretty extraordinary performances. You'll see some heroic nights of guys doing that revenge game. But tonight is an example where that goes wrong. That tonight is an example where, Malik is probably pressing too much. Like he's doing too much. And I think, it showed. He was minus 21 tonight, which is tied for his lowest plus minus of the season. He just didn't have it. He was overexerting himself. He was, I thought in the first half he had a couple turnovers that were uncharacteristic. He had a shot on the baseline in the corner for a three. That was just a shot I haven't seen him take since he's been here. And I just think, I get it. Again, it's the human element kind of slipping into it, but I just thought he was pressing a little bit too much. And when the Kings have their best player in De'Aaron not have an efficient night, and I would say by Sabonis standards, this is about as inefficient as it gets, 11 of 21. And then you have Malik put up an absolute stinker as well. Those are your 3 best players playing not even close to their A games. That's why you lose. Like I think there's definitely you can definitely throw shades at your Harrison Barnes, 24 minutes, 3 points. You can throw shade at if you want to still throw shade at Kevin Huerter. He really hasn't found his spark off the bench. But to me, it's about the efficiency. And on a night like tonight, when your team doesn't have it, it's kind of a little bit on your stars to bring it every single night. I think they did for the most part. I mean, if you just look at the raw numbers, Fox and Sabonis both had pretty typical nights when it comes to their standards, just again in terms of the baseline stats. But to me, the efficiency wasn't there, and I just kind of think you needed just a little bit more out of those guys, a little bit more aggression here. And just I know his 3-point shot is falling, but I think on a night like tonight where it wasn't, he missed. So I mean, yeah, he just he just didn't have it from three tonight, and he continued to look for it, and that's kind of the downside of De'Aaron finding his shot. Is it's going to be a balancing act that he's going to have to work through of figuring out when's best to pull from the perimeter and when's best to attack the rim. And again, I think when your team in total isn't knocking down shots, I think it's kind of on your stars a little bit to corral the group and get things back together and get easy buckets. I do think Chris Duarte did play really, really nice tonight. I'm seeing some talk in the chat here. Absolutely agree. To me, this is exactly what Chris Duarte, what Mike Brown wants Chris Duarte to bring. Again, if we're just looking at the numbers, Duarte 12 points, 7 boards, 4 assists. I continue to say, I think the thing that Duarte brings to the starting lineup that's so key that Kevin doesn't is it allows you to start the game defensively with Duarte on the other team's best ball handler. I mean, we've seen Keegan Murray kind of take that part of his development where he's guarding, Steph Curry. He'll guard Anthony Edwards for a period of time. Well, I think with Duarte in the lineup, it allows Duarte to be that guy, at least for the start of the game, and kind of let Keegan and De'Aaron get their footing behind them. And also Mike Brown talks a lot about, when it comes to the stars of this league, the Steph Currys, whoever it is, he always says you're not going to be able to slow them down, but it's just about giving them a steady diet of different things. You can't just throw Keegan Murray on him for 48 minutes because they're going to figure it out. They're going to figure him out. They're going to figure out his weak spots, his tendencies. Oh, he's really bad in pick and roll. I can't beat him off the dribble, but if I can just get a little bit of space, I know I can get around him. I think Chris Duarte provides at least a little bit of delay for that real matchup that Mike Brown's going to plan to unleash later on in the game. So I do like the Duarte addition into the starting lineup. I don't think it's doing much for Kevin Huerter in his game. I think it's going to be a long adjustment period for Kevin to kind of find his rhythm off the bench. It's a completely different ball game to just kind of be inserted, especially when you're just a shooter and you don't really create your own offense. It's going to be really tough for Kevin to figure it out on the bench, but I do still think that there is a role for him on this team if he can kind of figure it out. And it might look a whole lot different in terms of, the amount of times he'll be putting it up, but I definitely can see him being a solid piece of the rotation. But again, as trade season kind of does, come around the corner, it's February 8th, I believe. So we're about a month and a week away from the trade deadline. You just got to kind of wonder, which pieces are here to stay. And Mike Brown did confirm today that this Duarte move is not just a flash in the pan. It's not just we wanted to see how it would look against this matchup. It's going to be this way until I say we're going to change it. And that definitely sounds pretty permanent to me. I think as long as Duarte continues to play well, I do think that it's going to be his to keep, really, unless this team makes a move for somebody at that spot. But I really did like what I saw from Duarte today. Where was Keon Ellis? I will also say this as well. I'm seeing free Colby Jones from Stockton, which is hilarious. Not because Colby's not good, but it's just I don't think that Colby Jones is the answer or the answer that this team is missing right now. I got here pretty early today when before even pregame warmups, and I saw the Stockton guys all warming up, and Keon was a part of it. And I do forget because Keon's been with the big club so much this year, he is still on his 2-way contract. So I do think the fact that he was working out with some of the Stockton guys, if I could just read way too much into that, I think the Kings might be not moving on from Keon, but with his 50-game restriction or limit when it comes to being a 2-way player before his contract becomes full-time NBA, I think that they're going to look around different options and see if maybe they can, I don't want to say cheat the system, but just, if they don't have to convert Keon to a full contract, I think that, they're going to try and exhaust every option they can before they go back to that. So I do think there's a little bit of politics happening with that Keon Ellis situation, but I don't think it's anything too crazy. And I didn't think Keon, when he was playing so incredibly well that it's like you can't take this guy out. And Davion, I think, has shown that he's more than capable of just kind of holding down the fort. And, you might not get anything super special, but he's able to provide enough. And again, he's not losing you the game. Keon Ellis and Davion Mitchell's minutes are not the reason why the Kings lost this game tonight. What was everyone really frustrated with tonight? I mean, because again, to me, from my perspective, it was a really weird night for sure. I'm seeing careless turnovers. I'm doing myself a disservice by not mentioning the turnovers. Sabonis had a season high. I am now realizing I also didn't put the banner in here. Sabonis had a season high 11 turnovers, which is just, I mean, you can't have that. You cannot have 11 turnovers out of Domantas Sabonis. That's way too many. That is just absolutely way too many. I know sometimes he's had a couple games where he's really been high turnover guy, but a lot of that was honestly early in the season. As of recently, he hasn't had those big turnover nights, but tonight it just kind of reared its ugly head at the worst time. And I do attribute that to these guys just kind of looking around and saying, it's the Charlotte Hornets. Like, we really don't need to be as sharp as absolutely possible. So, it's unfortunate. It's the worst kind of learning lesson. It's a learning lesson that you take in a loss. You can definitely still learn things in wins, and you would ideally like to have this lesson learned in a win and keep it pushing. But unfortunately, these are the kind of lessons that stick a little bit more. And you can't forget, this Kings team is still young just in general, but also in terms of being a contender and how to handle yourself as a team that's always kind of viewed as the team that, or more times than not viewed as the team that's going to win. That's tough. There's a lot of expectations that come with that. And, but the thing is, good teams handle expectations. And second night of back-to-back has definitely been a thing that's really plagued this team this year. But I think that's another big sign of development, a team that knows how to handle, load management without missing games, how to figure out how to properly, get yourself ready for 2 games in 2 nights. And I think that's another sign of this team just kind of going through some maturity right now. And they got to figure it out. And I unfortunately think the only way to figure it out is by going through it and just hoping that they don't do this again. Because it can cost you. This season will not be like last season. 48 wins will not get you a 3 seed like it did last year. You can't drop games that you're supposed to win in this league, especially not at home. It's just it's the worst loss of the season because it's so it's just so unnecessary. To lose to a bad team is already bad enough, but then to lose at home on the first night of a back-to-back, you just can't have it. Like, you just got to be a little bit more focused than that. And I do wonder how Mike Brown's going to address this. I mean, it is one of those losses where it's so bad. I don't really think Mike Brown needs to yell and throw his hands about, because everybody knows, everybody in that locker room knows we just totally effed up tonight. Like, we effed this up bad. There is not supposed to be a universe in which the Kings lose to the Hornets. Okay. 15.5-point favorites. I think the Hornets were plus 950 tonight, which essentially means if you put down $10, you win 95 back. That's the kind of odds they were willing to give you on the Hornets winning tonight. So if anybody out there put it down and put more than $10, good on you. I think I said it earlier. I think it was ridiculous that the Kings were projected to win by that much in the first place. Again, I cited the Washington game as the prime reason why. I just haven't seen this team handle business really, and it's definitely going to be something I think that needs to be further examined. I mean, there's been a lot of situations. Really, I mean, I can really only think of Game 6 of last year's playoffs where, the Kings kind of had a gotta have it game presented in front of them, and they actually pulled through and won. Like, there have not been many games in which you could say the Kings absolutely had to have that game that night, and they actually got the win. Like, again, I'm thinking Game 6 last year in the playoffs. Funny enough, the Warrior game in the in-season tournament. And besides that, I honestly, and I really can't think of a game in which they have, which is really concerning. Again, when you think about the development of this team and where this team's trying to go, that would be a really good characteristic to have of your team, is just, wow, you know what? It might not be pretty, and I'm not saying tonight is one of those gotta have it nights. I would say tomorrow would definitely qualify a little bit more. But it would be nice to have a team that just shows up when they need to show up. That would be a really good, just kind of baseline quality to have in a team. And I would not say the Kings have it. I mean, even last year, I'm thinking of some games where at the end of the year, I think there was a San Antonio game where if the Kings won, they would have clinched a playoff spot at home, and they lost. And then there was another opportunity against the Timberwolves that they blew as well, if I'm remembering correctly. And then they got it. That's why, because I remember there was this huge thing of, oh my gosh, the Kings are going to clinch the playoff spot at home. They blew both of those opportunities and then had to go to Portland to kind of clinch it. So, I mean, of course they did eventually clinch the playoff spot, but it took them about as long as it possibly could have took for them to get it. So it's definitely going to be something I'm going to look at overnight, and definitely something I'm just going to monitor in general. Because, man, yeah, that would not be a good characteristic to feel for your team. And that's where you wonder, not to get too hot takey here, and I don't even believe it, but that's where the 16 years of losing starts to kind of creep in to your thoughts, at least a little bit. And I'm not saying the players, but just as someone who's watched this team for a really long time, there's some things that are just really hard to shake. And I'm not saying that there's actually some residuals left from that time, but I would say that winners tend to stay winning, and losers, I'm not saying the Kings are losers, but I'm just saying it's really hard sometimes to kind of get that stink off. And there's just a lot of, again, just small learning lessons that you learn from being good that we're going through right now, that, yeah, it would be really nice if the Kings just kind of picked up those lessons over the past 15 years and could have, spread that information through vets and things like that. But nonetheless, we find ourselves in this kind of situation where the Kings, again, have their worst loss of the season, losing to the Charlotte Hornets. It feels bad. I know I have. Oh, okay. So now I'm looking at this banner, and it did not update from the time. Okay, that's great. So I'm sorry that you guys have been seeing misinformation. But yeah, I mean, I think I know I had in there beforehand that there was only 2 stars of the night. And I think I am going to continue that as well, because to me, the Kings were screaming again tonight for a third option, and just never really found anyone who wanted to step to the plate in a different way, a little bit like that Portland game the other day where Tomas and Fox just go crazy, but couldn't get any production from anyone else. Chris Duarte was the team's third leading scorer at 12 points. Again, I guess if I were to have done the banner correctly, probably give Duarte the 1 star for the night. I thought, again, he provided pretty much everything Mike Brown would want him to provide. I think he hit a couple threes. He got the scoring, the first bucket of the game tonight. And again, his defense, I think, is a real plus and a real additive to this team. So I love Duarte's minutes tonight. I hope he can give a similar performance tomorrow, because like we've seen with Kevin when it comes to his shooting, it's not really about the one night bursts. It's about the consistency. What can you give me? What can I expect from you every single night? And I think we've seen Duarte bring that defensive physicality every single night, but the shot making is the thing that just hasn't been consistent. And it would be really nice if we can see that kind of continue tomorrow as well. 2 stars I'm going to give to Domantas Sabonis. I know the dude had 18 rebounds and 20 points, which is just absolutely absurd, but I cannot overlook the 11 turnovers. It was a really, really sloppy performance from him, and just really uncharacteristic. The efficiency is super un-Sabonis, like 11 of 21. We're talking about a guy who usually shoots 60% from the field would be a bad night for Sabonis. So the fact that he shoots just above 50 and has the 11 turnovers, it's so un-Sabonis like, and it's just unfortunate that it came on a night where no one could have bailed him out. And then the third star is De'Aaron Fox, who, again, even he didn't have a spectacular night. Of course, it speaks to De'Aaron how far he's come. That bad night for Fox, still dropped 30. But man, it just yeah, I completely agree. Manny just felt like Fox was really off from three, and it just never felt like he got into any sort of consistent rhythm. And I don't want to say, I just in general, I just don't feel like the team met the proper energy level necessary to win tonight. It just felt like they felt like at any point this thing was going to turn in their favor, and it was just going to happen because that's how it should have happened. But it did not. And again, you have to go out there and you have to win the ball game. It's never ever even against the freaking Charlotte Hornets on the road. It will never be given to you. And I really hope that lesson sunk in. And I cannot wait to hear the post-game press conference because I'm going to call it right now. There's no way, there's no way both De'Aaron and Domas spoke tonight. I'm going to say one of them spoke tonight because last time they gave us Keon Ellis, which was just an absolute joke. I'm going to say they give us Harrison Barnes and who would be the most? I bet Duarte and Harrison Barnes, I bet, are who the media got to speak to tonight, and I bet we got absolutely nothing. But yeah, just a really, really weird night here at Golden One. Just you could feel it from the start of the game. It just had just a dull. It was just a really dull night, dull energy, dull performance against a dull opponent, frankly. And there's really no excuse. Yeah, that's really all I got to say. I will see you all tomorrow after the Orlando Magic come to town. Hopefully that'll be on a much more positive note. Definitely no guarantees, as again, the Orlando Magic have been one of the best stories in the NBA this season. They have kind of fallen off form a bit. They were the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference for a good period. They've now slid down to 5, 19-14, very similar record to this Kings team. The thing that I'm most afraid for tomorrow is Orlando's length. They're a team that, if you're drawing up who's going to be a bad matchup for Sacramento, it's a team like Orlando where, they can throw out Anthony Black and Jalen Suggs and Franz Wagner with Banchero and maybe Mo Wagner. Who knows? I mean, they just provide so much length. And that's been the Kings' Achilles heel all season long, is teams with length and scoring. So Franz, I'm looking for Franz and Paolo tomorrow to combine for I would seriously, I'm not even joking here. It's going to be at least 55 points between the two. I'm going to call a 55, 20, and 12 out of those two. And the Kings are going to have to overcome that. I would almost guarantee that that's just going to be the numbers that those guys get because the Kings really don't have many guys who can try and make it difficult for them. The Kings are going to have to bring it tomorrow, and they're going to have to hit down perimeter shots because that's going to be the key to beating our team. A long team like Orlando is just knocking it down from the perimeter and negating their length the most that you can. But we'll see how that one goes tomorrow. Again, you can join me right here on the Sactown Sports 1140 YouTube channel, also on the Sactown Sports 1140 Twitter page as well. You can follow me on Twitter at Chris M. Watkins. You can also tune into me Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Styles and Watkins. Again, right here on Sactown Sports 1140. Y'all have a fantastic night. It's a shame we're not lighting the beam, but that's not our fault. That's the Kings' fault. We will see you tomorrow.